Hey, it's Sri here, and in today's video I'm going to talk you through 3 things you want to make sure you avoid doing if your husband has said he wants to separate and he's actually left. Now, if you're in this position and your husband has separated, I know that it's honestly the most devastating pain that you possibly could imagine. I've seen it and I've heard it in my clients on a regular basis, and it breaks my heart when I hear about people who are going through these challenges. And so if you're in that position, I want you to know that you're not alone. But I also want you to know that there are people out there who are wanting to help you and help you to heal and grow, and also to be able to save your marriage in the best possible way as well. So if you are in this position, you're really unsure about the steps that you need to take, and you want to make sure that you are growing and healing through this process, as well as maximizing your chances of saving your marriage, then I'd love to be of service to you. So if you are needing some guidance and some support on this journey, then what I encourage you to do is just in the description section below where it says book a call with me, just click on that link, choose a time that works for you, and then I'll contact you at the scheduled time just to see if I can help you at all. And if I can, then I'll give you some more details about how we can actually help you to move forward and to grow through the process. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below and click on that bell notification as well, so that every week you get access to my latest videos teaching you more about how you can become the best version of you, how you can heal your marriage, how you can learn more about male psychology as well, because it's really important to understand the differences in communication, especially when it comes to men. Now, I was speaking to a client earlier this week whose husband had left her. And what was happening was he was still coming over from time to time to, pick up certain things. And there was still a little bit of communication going on. And one of the things that she was really battling with was being able to stay as calm and as centered in the process as she could emotionally. Because what was happening was every time that he did come over, or there were some messages, there were certain behaviors that were going on that were preventing her from really creating some of the shifts and the changes that she needed to from within, but were also resulting in, the man sort of being pushed away a little bit as well. And it wasn't any fault of her own, because, she's in a difficult emotional place. And when we are in a difficult emotional place, then we tend to be irrational in terms of some of our decisions and the actions that we take. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to shoot this quick video to explain to you 3 things that you want to avoid if you are in this situation and that your husband has separated, and if he's left as well. And even if he hasn't left, these still apply to you as well. Now, the first point I wanted to make was around intimacy and making sure that you don't push yourself beyond your boundaries when it comes to intimacy, especially if he has said that he wants to separate from you and he's actually left, or even if he hasn't left. Now, some people have the ability to be able to maintain a physical relationship with their husband in these circumstances, but not get too emotional about the situation. Other individuals engage in some of that intimacy, and then when it's over, what ends up happening is they feel extremely emotional because of the mixed messages that they get. So often what happens is they'll engage in intimacy, then the husband will go somewhere else in terms of going back to his new apartment, or maybe go and sleep in the guest room or whatever. And then, in the coming days, there's very little communication. So what's happened is you've had this moment of, passion and intimacy and potentially love and so on, and then a couple of days later, there's nothing. And there's no connection whatsoever. And this can create a huge amount of, negative emotions inside the mind of the woman. She can feel completely used. She'll feel devastated because she's giving her heart and soul and he's just not making an effort. And it can just lead to so many negative emotions and thoughts. So I really encourage you to firstly really sit with yourself and go, what are my boundaries on this one? And if you are finding that it's affecting you negatively by engaging in intimacy with him, what I would do is I would set some boundaries on that one and say, look, I'm not going to, engage in that. I'm happy to, maybe engage in some cuddles or whatever, but I'm not going to engage in any sexual activity of any sort, because what that's going to do is it just throws me off completely. So it does require a degree of self-awareness here. If you are unsure, then feel free to post your comment or question below, and I'll be happy to answer it for you as well. But really important to get some clarity in your own mind about this particular process, because I don't want you to, give your heart, give your soul to him, and then find that, he just engages in some sexual intimacy with you, and then a couple of days later he's back to his old self. And I do find that it is easier for men in these circumstances to maintain a sexual relationship, a purely physical relationship, without getting too emotional about it in those moments. They're able to engage in it a lot easier, whereas it tends to have a little bit more of a negative impact on women in those circumstances. Now, yes, there are exceptions to the rule and so forth, but in my experience, that's what I've observed the most. So as I said, I'd really encourage you to set some boundaries on that one. That's the first point I wanted to make. Now, the second point I want to make is to really make sure that you're not going out there and really saying things like, please, just give me one more chance. Please, I'll do whatever it takes. Please, I've recognized all the things that I've done wrong. I want to make this work. I'm ready to change, and so on. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of this a little bit like a job situation. So one of the things I saw a lot in my corporate world is that, individuals, including myself, were having a particular job, and we were often doing work beyond our scope, and it didn't feel like we were getting any sort of appreciation for it. And so the natural reaction at that moment in time is then to say, look, I'm going to try and find another job somewhere else, or I want to try and make more money somewhere else, so I'm going to go and look elsewhere. Then you get that job, then you go back to your current employer and say, look, I'm leaving, I've been given this job, and what do? More often than not, they try and give you the job that you want. They try and give you more money to keep you there. But then a lot of the time, for the person who gets the new job, they say, well, too little, too late. So that's the initial reaction. Now, it's not comparing apples with apples here in terms of a job and the marriage, in terms of their ability to resolve the situation. But the example of how individuals at the beginning are like, look, I've spent all this time doing all these things. You haven't appreciated me for a long time, and so on. So therefore, you know what? I'm done. So we have to approach this in a very different way. It's a very delicate situation when it comes to relationships. We need to make sure we're not begging and pleading and demanding and just on our knees, just groveling and hoping for that shift to occur or the opportunity to be able to work on it. It, in my experience, rarely works. Once again, there are exceptions to the rule, but more often than not, they don't work, because that person is in the mindset of, hang on, where was all this 6 months ago or a year ago or 2 years ago, and so on. So we have to be careful of this. The reason why it's important is because it creates an unfortunate dynamic where the man is up here and you're down here. So he is always in a position of power. What we want to do is help you to reclaim your power. And when I say power, I'm not meaning in terms of control or, any sort of negative dynamics of any sort. What I mean is it's empowerment from within. And what you're saying by begging and pleading is, I can't live without you. I need you. And so therefore, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I need to just beg and plead, and I'm desperate for you, so desperate for you. But what I want you to remember, and I know this is going to be a difficult thing to understand right now because you're probably in a very emotional state, is that you don't actually need your husband. Now, yes, you desire your husband. Yes, you've got this beautiful family and, there's finances involved and all of that stuff. I totally understand that. But for your actual sense of self, I want you to remember that you are enough just as you are, and you don't need your husband. And when we come from a place where we need our husband, then what happens is we're in this place where we find ourselves begging and pleading and all of that stuff. And once again, very natural to be in that place, but what it actually does is it keeps you going through that cycle over and over and over, makes you feel like you're not enough, makes you feel like you're failing, you blame yourself, you punish yourself, and so on. And it only leads to a very unhealthy dynamic. And even if the begging and the pleading works, what happens is you're always going to be on edge. You're always going to be walking on eggshells when he comes back, because you're just waiting for that moment for things to fall over again, because you've had that trauma around him leaving as well. So I really want to make sure that you Firstly, recognize that you are perfect as you are, that you are enough as you are, that you don't need him, but you absolutely love him and you desire him, but you're able to just balance out those dynamics a little bit more so that you actually can reclaim your power a little bit more. And that, this is a choice that you're making as opposed to being a reaction to the circumstances that you're in. So like I say, you want to make sure that you empower yourself, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're not begging and pleading and really pushing, because that often has the opposite effect to what you actually want. And the third point I wanted to make is to make sure you do your own internal healing. This kind of aligns up with point number 2 in the sense that it's about empowerment. It's about recognizing that when we actually heal from within, that's where the magic happens. I've mentioned this before in other videos, but in the last few weeks, I've had 2 clients who have messaged me telling me that their husbands have come back out of nowhere. And that's after being separated with them for over a year. And it's also come from a point where they actually never did any real work on the marriage. It was actually a lot of work internally. Now, just to be clear here, I think a lot of people think that, when they're working on themselves, what they're trying to do is clear all the stuff that they used to do, whether it be maybe not showing enough appreciation or not making them feel significant or whatever it may be. Think that all of that behavior is what led to this problem now where he's left, and I need to change all of that so then I can address that particular problem and then he'll just come back to me. It's not about that. It's about actually empowering you. It's about recognizing that you are enough just as you are. It's about recognizing the areas that you feel like you need to improve in all areas of your life. So for example, if you're someone that really struggles to give compliments to people, to be able to show affection to people, then the chances are that your heart is just a little bit closed off on some level. So what you want to be doing is working on expanding that, expanding your capacity to love, so that you can actually open your heart and then you come across in a very different way. Then what happens is down the line, the husband starts to pick up on that and they start to notice shifts. Because what you're doing is you're creating friction in the environment. You're changing things up, you're shaking things up. If it's the same approach that has been applied for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, but the only difference is that you're basically just pushing harder or you're just desperate for that outcome to occur, then you're not actually really shaking things up. You want to shake things up in a very loving and a very peaceful way. We want to create those shifts. We want to become the best versions of ourselves, not to try and get him back, but for our own selves, so that we can feel happy, that we can feel joyful, that we can feel peaceful. So what we do is we get to this place where we're in such a beautiful state. We come across in a very different way, not just to our husband, but to other people around us. And you often get compliments like, there's just something really beautiful about you. You've really changed. And it's a lovely thing. And when you do that, what I find is the husband often gets drawn to that. But as I said, the key point is that you're not doing it to get him back. You're doing it because it's helping you to find joy, to find happiness, to find peace, and so on. Now, I know you're probably hearing this and thinking, but how on earth do I do those things? How do I create those shifts? How do I create those transformations? Well, that's why I've created my Authentic Relationship System training program, which, it really is an amazing program which really can help to create the most rapid and magical transformations from within. Because what we're doing is we're not just working at the surface level, we're going deep. We're wanting to help you to heal some of those deeper wounds. And it's nothing scary. It's all done in a very safe way that's going to ensure that in a very gradual and steady process, it will ensure that you're actually able to find the real you and connect back to who you are. It's no different to one of my most remarkable clients who actually messaged on our Facebook group about how her husband had cheated on her, left state, and then, now where they're at after about 18 months is the most beautiful place that they can possibly imagine. And these things happen regularly because people are actually healing from within and creating that transformation. It's such a beautiful thing, such a powerful thing, but it requires the right attitude and it requires a level of work ethic as well. And if you want something bad enough, you will find a way to find the time and the energy and the motivation to do the work as well. So if it is something that feels right for you and you want to be a part of it and you want to connect with these amazing women who are in this community, who have had to go through hell and back but have been able to heal in the process, then I'd love to be of service to you. Then all you need to do, if it does feel right for you, just in the description section below, just click on that link that says book a call with me. Just click on that link, choose a time that works for you, fill out the short application form, and then I'll contact you at the scheduled time. Just see if I can help in any way and see if you're a good fit, because I only take on a certain number of clients and I only take on a certain type of person as well, because I want to make sure it's a really good fit for the community. So once again, just click on that link, and I look forward to speaking to you very, very soon. Thank you so much. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And do let me know what your biggest takeaway is from this video as well. I always love hearing some of the comments and the questions that come through. So please make sure you comment below and I'll make sure I respond to you. And if you want to learn why men regret losing a good woman, click this video above. And if you want to learn how to stop emasculating your man, click this video above. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you in the very next video.